This wasn't just another royal headline. This was a silent earthquake, the kind that cracks foundations while everyone's distracted by glitter and noise. While cameras chase sound bites and flashy interviews across the ocean, something far colder, far more permanent, was unfolding behind palace walls. A move so precise, so calculated, it could quietly erase the title that built an empire of influence.
Breaking today, Prince William doubles down. According to multiple sources, it's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal title.
Is Meghan Markle thinking how this woman is completely unraveling? Because now she doesn't get that a royal title, it is not property. She's now threatening to sue Prince William.
Notice the pattern? Every time global attention tilts in a different direction, suddenly there's another dramatic splash, another emotional reveal, another carefully timed announcement. It's loud, urgent, impossible to ignore. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. While all that noise echoed through headlines, Prince William wasn't reacting. He was planning. No press tours, no leaks, no public commotion. Just quiet meetings, serious faces, and doors that stayed firmly closed. This was never tabloid chaos. This was institutional chess. And the stakes? The very definition of who gets to be called royal. There's a split at the top, and it's deeper than polite smiles let on. The king, guided by heart and history, still believes bridges can be rebuilt. Forgiveness, reconciliation, keeping the family whole, that's his instinct. But William? He's moved into a different headspace entirely. For him, this stopped being about feelings a long time ago. It became about survival.
She is not a blood royal, so herself, she's not titled. People keep calling her Duchess Meghan, putting the title before the name. That only applies to blood royal.
Because from his perspective, the monarchy has been absorbing blow after blow while trying to stay gracious. And at some point, grace starts to look like weakness. Word is, a private father-son conversation changed everything. Not shouting, not drama, just a realization that kindness wasn't calming the storm, it was stretching the system to a breaking point. Charles sees family members who made painful choices. William sees an institution being tested in ways it was never designed to handle. And once he reached that conclusion, waiting stopped being an option.
But I do feel that actually having done it once with Drew, you can do it again with Harry and Meghan.
Here's where it gets serious. William reportedly began assembling a team, not media advisors, not image consultants, constitutional experts, historians. People who understand the monarchy like engineers understand a bridge. Their job wasn't to defend reputations. It was to examine the structure itself and find the weak spots. And they found one. The monarchy runs on tradition, but tradition has always assumed loyalty, duty, and service. What happens when someone steps away from their responsibilities but keeps the prestige? That gray area is the glitch, and William hates glitches.
Meghan's actually threatened that she's going to take out some sort of terrible thing if it does happen, that she won't allow that to happen. But we'll see what the fight is when it gets going.
So the solution being whispered about behind closed doors is brutally simple. Clarity, written authority, defined boundaries. A system where titles are tied directly to service, not history, not emotion, not public sympathy. Serve the crown, represent the institution, carry the weight, you keep the title. Step away for private ventures and independence? That's your right, but the royal status doesn't follow you out the door. Cold? Maybe. Strategic? Absolutely.
Or any monarch who dares take her title away. Meghan is only using a royal title, her husband's royal title that he holds for now.
Because once titles start functioning like branding tools instead of service roles, their meaning thins out. And William is thinking long game, decades, not news cycles. Other monarchies have already done versions of this, slimmed down, tightened definitions, drew lines. And here comes the mechanism that makes this more than palace gossip, letters patent. Sounds boring. It isn't. This is the sovereign's power to redefine titles and royal status with a single document. No public vote, no political debate. One signature, and the framework shifts overnight. It's happened before. History proves that when the crown needs to adapt, it does. The rumor is that a modernized framework has already been drafted, not announced, not leaked, just ready, waiting. The idea is clear: only working royals retain formal status. Others remain family, just not official representatives of the monarchy. If that ever gets signed, the change wouldn't explode with drama. It would arrive quietly, formally, almost politely, but the impact? Massive. Because certain public identities are built on one word, Duchess. That word opens doors, shapes introductions, anchors media narratives. It transforms appearances into events. Remove the formal recognition behind it, and everything shifts. Not instantly gone, but altered, reframed, less institutional, more celebrity. And there's a difference between those two currencies. Celebrity runs on attention. Royalty runs on legitimacy. One fades, one endures. That's why the possibility has reportedly triggered serious behind-the-scenes scrambling elsewhere. Branding discussions, legal hypotheticals, protective strategies. But palace advisors have been playing this game for centuries. Commercializing royal titles? That door has already been quietly locked. Because in the crown's eyes, titles aren't personal property. They're institutional tools. And here's the part that makes this feel inevitable. William isn't acting loudly. He's acting methodically, studying Denmark's title restructuring, watching how European monarchies modernize without collapsing, learning from every precedent where clarity ultimately strengthened the institution. No revenge, no public feud, just evolution. While interviews made noise, strategy made progress. While headlines chased drama, policy drafts sat in folders. While emotion filled airtime, structure was being reinforced in silence. And now there's a noticeable shift in palace energy. Calmer, firmer, less reactive. Like a system that finally decided where its boundaries are. Whether people love the move or hate it almost doesn't matter. From an institutional perspective, it's clean, defensible, grounded in precedent. William isn't waiting for a crown to start shaping the monarchy. He's already doing it. And the question hanging in the air is heavy. If royal status becomes strictly tied to service, where does that leave those who chose a different path? No shouting, no spectacle, just paperwork, protocol, and a pen. Sometimes the quietest moves echo the longest. And here's where the temperature really drops, because once the system decides to redefine itself, it doesn't send warning texts. It doesn't negotiate in public. It just updates. And the people who built their world around the old settings suddenly realize the software has changed. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere reportedly shifted from curiosity to urgency. Advisors who once brushed off reform talk as palace theory started taking longer meetings. Legal experts who usually dealt with routine matters were suddenly being looped into conversations about definitions, precedent, authority, not drama, logistics. And logistics are dangerous because they mean someone is actually preparing to act. Across the Atlantic, there was still confidence that the royal connection was permanent, untouchable, woven into public identity forever. After all, the narrative had always leaned on one powerful angle: modern royals forging a new path. That framing only works if the word royal still carries formal weight behind it. If it becomes symbolic instead of institutional, the entire story has to be retold, and retelling never lands as strongly as the original myth. Inside palace circles, the conversation reportedly kept circling back to one principle: representation. Who speaks for the monarchy? Who embodies it? Who carries the authority of the crown into public life? Those questions used to have fuzzy edges, softened by tradition and goodwill. Now they're being sharpened with legal language and historical backing. Because here's the uncomfortable truth at the heart of this: prestige without responsibility creates imbalance. It sends a message that status can be separated from service, that the shine can be kept without the structure underneath it. And for an institution built entirely on continuity and duty, that's a crack that can't be ignored. So the strategy isn't loud retaliation, it's narrowing the definition of official. Fewer titles and active rotation. Clearer lines between private family life and public royal duty. A smaller, tighter core that represents the crown full-time. It doesn't look like punishment on paper, it looks like streamlining, modernization, efficiency. But emotionally, symbolically, it hits like a door closing softly but permanently. Because if a letter's patent ever emerges with updated language, it won't mention names. It won't reference interviews, documentaries, or public criticism. It will speak in calm, formal terms about service, clarity, and the future of the monarchy. And in that calm language, entire identities could shift overnight. Imagine the moment the announcement drops. No dramatic music, no explosive press conference, just a palace statement, carefully worded, explaining an evolution in how royal titles are defined in the modern era. Commentators scramble. social feeds ignite, legal analysts dissect every line. But the decision itself? Already done, signed, sealed in tradition, and suddenly introductions sound different. Event hosts pause for a split second, unsure which phrasing is now correct. Media outlets quietly adjust their style guides. Brand partners reevaluate contracts written under old assumptions. It's not a public spectacle. It's a ripple effect moving through elite spaces, boardrooms, and guest lists. Because access is everything. And royal designation has always been a golden key, not just to attention, but to rooms where influence quietly circulates. If that key changes shape, some doors don't open as easily. Interest might remain, but the mystique shifts, and mystique is fragile. Once institutional backing fades, curiosity turns into familiarity, familiarity turns into normalcy, and normalcy doesn't command the same leverage. What makes this even more striking is the contrast in styles. On one side, emotion, storytelling, public narrative. On the other, silence, paperwork, and century-old mechanisms being activated with surgical calm. One approach dominates headlines. The other rewrites the rulebook, and insiders say William understands something fundamental. The monarchy can't compete with celebrity culture on volume. It can't outshout Hollywood or outtrend social media. Its power has always come from the opposite: restraint, mystery, structure, permanence. The moment it starts behaving like entertainment, it loses the very thing that makes it different. So this isn't about winning a media war. It's about refusing to fight one at all, and instead reinforcing the walls that separate institution from industry. There's also a generational undertone humming beneath all of this. A shift from a model where inclusion was stretched as far as possible to keep everyone comfortable, to a model where clarity is valued over comfort. It's less sentimental, more strategic. Less about keeping every bridge intact, more about ensuring the central structure doesn't weaken. That doesn't mean relationships disappear. Family bonds can exist privately. Gatherings, milestones, personal connections, those can continue away from official roles. But the public-facing machine of monarchy becomes more defined, less flexible, harder to repurpose for personal ventures. And that's the real pivot: royal status moving from something you are to something you do. For decades, the assumption was that once you entered that circle, the identity stuck no matter what path you later chose. Now the idea being floated is different, that representation of the crown is an active role, not a permanent label. Step out of the role, and the label changes too. Not erased from history, but no longer functioning in the present. If that philosophy becomes formal policy, it won't just affect one story, it will shape the future of the monarchy for generations. Younger royals growing up now would understand from the start titles come with duties, and duties define whether the title remains operational. It's a corporate mindset applied to a 1,000-year-old institution. And the public? Reactions would be split. Some would see cruelty, others would see overdue clarity. Critics would debate motives, supporters would praise modernization. But beneath all the noise, the monarchy would have done what it has always done at pivotal moments in history: adapt quietly to preserve itself. Because that's the paradox at the center of this entire saga. The crown doesn't survive by clinging emotionally to every chapter. It survives by editing its own story when necessary, even if that editing feels cold in the moment. So while the spotlight has been fixed on interviews, tell-alls, and streaming deals, the real transformation has been unfolding in meeting rooms, archives, and legal drafts. No shouting, no dramatic showdowns, just a future being engineered with patience. And if the pen ever meets paper on that updated document, the world won't see fireworks. It will see a calm announcement. And then, very quickly, a new royal reality.